Welcome back to the Cobargo IT 2026 PI Law Technology Series. I'm Amelia Pero. Today's episode is one that every PI firm owner and partner needs to hear and, frankly, share with their team. We're talking cybersecurity, the threat landscape, the technology stack, and what things actually cost when it goes wrong. Yuval Gorin from Cobargo IT is back with me again. Yuval, thanks for being here. Let's start with the number that I think will surprise a lot of people. 1,055 cyber attacks per week targeting law firms. That's the number that's in the report, right?
Hi, Amelia. Yeah, and that's 2024 data. And yes, it's right. And it's up 13% from the year before. So that's not a typo. 1,055 attempted cyber attacks per week on average, targeting law firms. That has certainly increased in 2025 and continues on that trajectory in 2026. Now, most of those don't succeed. The vast majority are automated probes, bot scanning for open ports, credential stuffing attacks, phishing emails that most spam filters catch, although there are plenty that get through and people provide their credentials. But the ones that do get through are doing enormous damage. 20% of US law firms were targeted by cyber attack last year. 8% suffered actual breaches that resulted in the loss or exposure of uh, client sensitive data. And the cost of a breach has now crossed $5 million dollars on average, up 10% year over year. That includes forensics, notifications, regulatory fines, legal costs, remediation costs, and not to mention the reputational damage that's really generally hard to put a price on.
Wild. Yeah. Talk to us about why law firms are such attractive targets. Like what do they actually want?
So law firms, especially PI law firms, are the perfect cybercrime target. And I want PI law leaders to really understand why. You hold three categories of data that are each independently valuable to attackers. First, medical data, PHI. PI cases involve extensive medical records, diagnoses, treatment histories, prescription information. Medical records sell for significantly more on the dark web than credit card data because they can be used for insurance fraud and can't be easily changed the way a credit card number can be. Secondly, financial data, settlements, trust account information, client financial details. Attackers can use this for wire fraud by redirecting a settlement payment, and that's a very real attack vector. Third is strategic information, litigation strategies, weaknesses in cases, settlement negotiation positions. Sophisticated attackers, especially state-sponsored actors in a lot of these cases, target law firms specifically to gain intelligence about their clients' legal situations. And on top of all that, law firms are often seen as softer targets than banks or healthcare systems, which have invested heavily in security. The perception is that law firms are behind. And unfortunately, for many mid-sized firms, that perception isn't entirely wrong.
Okay, so walk us through the cybersecurity technology stack. What does a properly protected PI firm need to have in place?
Again, for simplicity, I organize this into five layers. And I want to be honest with you, none of them are optional. Layer one is security awareness training. Your people are your biggest vulnerability and your best defense. 90% of successful cyber attacks start with a human error. Someone clicking a phishing link, someone giving their credentials to a fake IT support caller, someone downloading a malicious file. Quarterly phishing simulations at a minimum and security training reduce that risk dramatically. This is the highest ROI investment in your security stack. Layer two, multi-factor authentication. Everywhere. Your email, your case management, your billing, your remote access, and I mean everything. MFA blocks 99% of credential-based attacks. If you implement nothing else on this list, you must implement MFA. It costs almost nothing and eliminates the vast majority of account takeover risk. Layer three is endpoint protection and mobile device management. Every device that touches firm data, laptops, phones, tablets, needs to be running current endpoint security software and enrolled in a centralized management platform. This gives you visibility, control, and the ability to remotely wipe a device if it's lost or stolen. This is particularly important if you're using remote intake overseas operations. It's critically important. Layer four is cloud access security broker. It's called CASB. Um, as you move more systems to the cloud, you really need a layer that enforces your data security policies across all of these platforms and all your cloud applications. A CASB monitors for risky behavior. Somebody downloading 10,000 documents at 2 a.m., for example, and can block unauthorized data transfers. That needs to be tracked. That needs to kick off an alert that your IT team can respond to. Layer five is an incident response plan, a documented, tested playbook for what to do when, not if, something goes wrong. Who do you call first? What systems do you isolate? How do you notify clients? Who talks to the press if you're that size? And you don't have to be a big law firm because, again, the risk to your reputation can have significant impact. 34% of law firms have a formal plan. Yours should be one of them.
Okay, let's talk about cyber insurance. Is it worth it for a PI firm? What does cyber insurance actually cover?
Absolutely worth it. And it's becoming harder to get without demonstrating that you have a reasonable security posture. Cyber insurance for a law firm typically is going to cover forensic investigation costs after a breach, notification costs, because you often have legal obligations to notify clients and regulators when your data is exposed. Ransom payments in the event of a ransom attack, although I prefer that you have a system in place where you don't have to rely on paying a ransom. But if you do, business interruption losses, while your system are down, could be covered. Legal and regulatory defense costs if you face a bar complaint or regulatory action as a result of the breach. The premiums have gone up significantly in the last 3 years as the claims have increased, and underwriters are now asking very detailed questions about your security posture before they issue a policy. Do you have MFA? Do you have endpoint protection? Do you have security awareness training? Do you have an incident response plan? If the answer to any of those questions is no, you're either going to pay a higher premium or get denied. So my advice is this: get the insurance, but don't treat it as a substitute for security. Insurance pays for the aftermath. Good security prevents the aftermath from happening at all.
Indeed. So the report mentions that, was it 37% of clients are willing to pay a premium for firms with strong cybersecurity. Can you turn cybersecurity then into a marketing advantage?
Look, I'm not a marketing expert, but I think absolutely. And the best PI firms are already doing this. Think about the client perspective. When someone hires a PI firm, they're handing over the most sensitive information in their life, their medical records, their financial situation, the details of their injury and suffering. The question is, how safe is my information with your firm? And that's real. And for a certain type of client, sophisticated client, referral clients from doctors or financial advisors, clients who've been through a data breach before, it can really influence their hiring decision. Firms that could say, here's our security posture, here's our data privacy policy, here are our certifications. Those firms are differentiating themselves in a way that most PI marketing ignores. They're saying we take your privacy as seriously as we take care of your case. And that's a compelling message that nobody else in your marketing, in your market is probably saying. And practically put your security practices on your website. Include a brief explanation of how you protect client data in your intake process. Have a written privacy policy that's actually readable. These are small things that signal to a client base that you take this very seriously.
Thank you, Yvonne. Eye-opening as always. In our next episode, we go even deeper on threats, the emerging attack vectors that weren't on anyone's radar 18 months ago, AI-powered social engineering, deepfakes, and supply chain attacks. In other words, the critical episode you won't want to miss. See you in episode 8.